talk about the top 12 Dynasty wide receivers. So last week's concept, we and Josh kind of went back and forth. We counted down from 12 to 1. We're not going to do that with three people because it's a little bit more confusing. So we kind of talked about this ahead of time. We compiled our list together, crunched the data, and we came out with this perfect list. So we are going to start with number 12. And number 12 is Devontae Adams of the Las Vegas Raiders. Joe and I don't think listed him, so we'll just let Josh have the floor here.
You talked about listing him, but okay. So the thing about Devontae Adams is the man doesn't stop. I get he's 29. I get that he's not of the like young age, but the man is a top 5 wide receiver in the last 3 years and will continue to be so in the future. I mean, barring an injury, he's dealt with worsening Aaron Rodgers over the years. He's got Derek Carr, who, like, I don't know, refused to throw him the ball for a couple games and then just now feeds him. Any quarterback that comes into this lineup is going to feature Devontae Adams. There, at the moment, there's literally no one else. Obviously, that should change next year. They should be bringing in some more pass catchers. But Renfro just never seemed to have it this year. Waller was kind of hit or miss before he got injured. I don't understand how anyone could not put him in their list. I had to slot him in at number 12. I just feel like he deserves to be there. Actually, I think I had him at 11. My apologies.
You make sense at 12. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you about having Devontae Adams there. I mean, we don't know if Carr is going to be the starter next year. We know all the other pieces are coming back. He's older. I mean, it's just a matter of fact. I mean, for me personally, Devontae Adams is a guy I would be selling right now, especially if I'm out of the playoff hunt, to recoup as much as you can because you're going to get a lot for him right now. He's just not on my dynasty buy list, which is kind of what I essentially put this list as.
Yeah, so I had him at 13, so it's not like I was completely out on Devontae Adams. But my thought process behind that was, don't know if Derek Carr is going to be there next year. And I don't think this offense particularly works. They're an awful football team with Devontae Adams. So I don't.
It's not Devontae Adams. They were a terrible football team last year. They've been a terrible football team for the last 4 years.
They made the playoffs last year.
They barely made the playoffs.
Okay, but they made the playoffs. This year, they're not even going to get close. So, I mean, I'm saying, like, obviously this offense doesn't work, so we can't quite do this again. I mean, Josh Jacobs has been killing it this year. He's like a top 5 running back.
And so is Devontae Adams.
The top 5 wide receiver. I get it. I'm saying they're going to have to change some things next year.
I told every single person that bringing Devontae Adams here didn't solve anything, but he's still going to be good. It's Devontae Adams. Like, he's a good wide receiver. He's going to get a lot of targets. He's going to beat a lot of corners.
It's probably not going to be that way going forward. That's the only reason I have him one spot lower than this. Not even like I'm saying he's out of it. But yes, him being 29, unless you're competing in the next 1 to 2 years, I don't think you can trade for him. So it's just, that's why
I didn't know this was a trade for list. I thought this was just an overall.
No, it is. Yes. You're right. My biggest thing when we're talking dynasty is just like, the other 12 and the ones that I had are guys that I want on my team right now. I wouldn't be upset having Devontae Adams on my team, but if you're a contender, absolutely 1,000%. Adams is on your squad. You love it. You're happy with it.
You're a contender because Devontae Adams is on your squad.
Exactly. And that's where it's at. But the reason I left him off mine is because he is a guy that I would be trading away. Again, 13, 14, that's where I would have him.
He's the same as some of these other veterans that we have above here. Like, I mean, there's
the veterans above him. The only reason they're above him is because I know what I'm getting from that quarterback or offense. So
okay, we'll have a conversation in a couple picks.
Right. We will explain. So on to number 11, we got the first young pup of this generation. I think this is our only rookie on this list, if I'm not mistaken.
I tried to put Pickens on this list.
You did. I wanted to put Garrett Wilson on this list too.
He was in the outside looking in, but it ended up being Chris Olave for the New Orleans Saints. I had him at 11, so I'll speak up on this one. Chris Olave is the offense for the Saints. I mean, we keep thinking and saying and trying to talk ourselves into Michael Thomas coming back. It's not happening, guys. Like, I think we can say it at this point, he's a very frustrating player. He seems frustrated in general. I don't really know what he wants to do in life. It does not seem like he wants to play football because he does not like the quarterback. He doesn't like the system, doesn't like the coach, yada, yada, yada. We go on and on. He does not come back. So that leaves a very huge void in their offense, and that is Chris Olave is fitting in completely. He is able to make catches down the field. He is getting better every week, it feels like. And for a rookie, this might be our top rookie in this class, which if you would have asked me this back in April, I would have said there's no shot in hell. But here
Literally
we are.
traded a pick to me
Here
because
we
you
are.
didn't want Chris Olave.
Exactly. Here we are. It works out.
No, I think the most impressive thing about Chris Olave is because he was kind of off our radar as like a top fantasy or dynasty pick, really. I mean, he was that kind of that lull starting, and like it was like, a lot of people probably picked Sky Moore and Christian Watson over him right now. And there's a reason he's on this list and those two aren't, which, sorry, spoiler alert, those are on the list. But we kind of already talked about that. But the most impressive thing about Olave is he literally has done it with majority of Andy Dalton. And this was even when Michael Thomas was there, when Landry was there, he asserted himself to the top. And I think that's what the thing that makes it the biggest is that he is the number one receiver on the team with, obviously whatever fragile Michael Thomas at this point, ego and physically. And then Landry, who's a little older at this point and has kind of been on and off the field. But he showed that he was number one before they, kind of dwindled off the roster at this point. So yeah, no, I told everyone and anyone that would listen to me that Michael Thomas was not going to play this whole season because I didn't think he'd play a game. I thought he was just done. Like, I'm done with Michael Thomas. But Chris Olave is the new Michael Thomas, and you can pretty much go look back on Michael Thomas's first couple of years. That's what Chris Olave is going to do.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, Chris Olave, just like the Devontae Adams thing, though, we don't know what's going on with quarterback for them long term. They don't have a pick this year, so we'll see what happens. Cooper Rush is going to look awesome thrown to Chris Olave. The biggest thing that I love about Chris Olave is just how willing they are just to pepper him with the ball. I mean, pretty much from his first game, that's what we did not expect to see. We didn't think Chris Olave would be that involved that early in this offense, especially with Landry and Thomas there. They're just throwing the house at him and seeing what he can do, which bodes really well for his future there, especially when they're able to land a quality signal caller that can get him the ball even more.
Yeah, I think being quarterback proof is something that, brings him onto this list. I would say that he's probably has the worst quarterback of the entire list throwing him the ball right now. I mean, you could probably argue for, Derek Carr. Derek Carr's better than Dalton. And then, obviously we've got a player ahead that has Jared Goff. Jared Goff's, I think, a little bit better than Andy Dalton at least. So, I mean, I think this was probably the worst quarterback, wide receiver on this list. So that should just show you he probably is going to be quarterback proof for his career if he can even succeed with Andy Dalton.
Which is awesome to see from a rookie.
Right. It really is. It's
we really don't know with most of these guys.
Because
like Tyreek Hill, we were really worried about him.
Yeah.
And
Wilson was not quarterback proof whatsoever.
He's not. No. And that should tell you something. I don't know exactly what that is because Garrett Wilson, he looked good in this last game, but it took, what was his name, Joe, for the Bears dying on the field for him to get that second
Eddie
touchdown?
Jackson.
Yeah, Eddie Jackson had to literally die on the field to get that second touchdown. We're not seeing what we're seeing from Olave, who's able to catch these long bombs for touchdowns.
Honestly, Garrett Wilson has really only had a couple of good games. He's had decent games, but like Olave is just looking like the splash man at the moment. Garrett Wilson still looks great, obviously, especially
we saw
with
Elijah Moore just come right back into the picture.
Zach Wilson looks like, let's not be mistaken. Zach Wilson's much worse than Andy Dalton. No. Zach Wilson's much worse than Andy Dalton. So there is a complete quarterback crater there that he's had to deal with. But still, Chris Olave has been able to thrive. All right, on to number 10. Joe, can you talk to us about Mr. Cooper Kupp of the LA Rams?
Yeah, I mean, Cooper Kupp, what more do you want from the guy? I have a number 8 on my list. He's 29. He's aging a little bit, but, I mean, the dude just puts up points. Stafford loves him, and just his target numbers alone. I mean, he gets like 12 or 13 targets a game. When he comes back next year, it's going to be the exact same thing. I do not see him losing a step. He's only been in the league for 5 years. He does not use physicality for the most part to do his deed at wide receiver. He's smart. He's crafty. I can see him having a play well into his early 30s, 33, 34.
It's kind of wild that we didn't see this coming, in the 2020 season when in 2019 he was wide receiver 5. Obviously, it was a little high of touchdowns, but obviously the Cooper Kupp connection with Stafford is ridiculous. And then literally, I think the weirdest thing is he's basically not played for 3 weeks and he's still wide receiver 5. Like nobody's touched him since then. He might still probably not end up as like close to wide receiver 10 on the season at the end of the year.
Right.
But my only thing with Cooper Kupp is what we talked about at the beginning of this podcast. The Rams in general look terrible. And I understand that Stafford has been dealing with a shoulder injury to start the season, but Cooper Kupp was never a problem. That's the only thing. And I think it'd be scary to see what would happen without Stafford in there. Because he was still a good wide receiver beforehand, but after Stafford came in, I mean, that was when he really had his breakout, and that's when he's been putting up pretty much 30 points a game in fantasy. So
Yeah, I mean the Breakfast Club was a real thing that became a thing last season, and his fantasy value shot through the roof because of it.
he's a young 29 too. I think people don't realize that. Like he came into the season into the league at 24. He was not a young man when he came into the league. He's not like been in the league for 10 years or anything like that. And wide receivers do last a little longer, hence why I have Davante Adams higher than you two, because I understand the dilemma of whatnot. But Cooper Kupp, no worries here. I don't think you're even worried when Stafford leaves. I mean, more than likely they're replacing him with something better, unless it's the Steelers situation.
Yeah,
Well, they might
I
not have a
trust-
pick
I
for the
trust
next
Sean
5
McVay.
years. So
That's fair.
true, too.
They'll trade all of their 7 first-round picks for like Gardner Minshew or something.
That's probably true. All right, on to number 9, and that is Mr. Stephon Diggs of the Buffalo Bills. Josh, do you want to talk about Mr. Stephon Diggs?
Yeah, honestly, I'm lower on Stephon Diggs. I feel like I put him in here gratuitously, although I think Joe is actually the lowest on him total. I had him at number 8. It was kind of gratuitous just because he's going to be playing with Josh Allen for the next, I don't know, foreseeable future at the moment. I think he's got a couple more years on his deal, and there's no way they let him walk at this point, although they will have to pay him. My thing about Stephon Diggs is that he's just the only guy on the Bills. No offense to Gabe Davis. He's done okay. He's had his big games, his little 3 touchdown games. Dawson Knox has been kind of non-existent. Sorry, Jordan. It just hasn't happened, man. But like, there's no one else to throw to. They don't use the run game. Josh Allen's the running back, and then it's Stephon Diggs. And those are the 2 plays that they run. So you know what you're getting the next 2 years. And my thing about Dynasty is, yes, it's about young guys, and yes, it's about the future, but it's also about winning championships. So Stephon Diggs has to be on this list, just number 1, gratuitously, but number 2, he needs to be high on this list because he's going to be wide receiver 1, 2, or 3 pretty much the next 2-3 years. So I mean, naturally, and maybe even longer. Who knows how long this roller coaster will last? But he's only looked better in Buffalo, and will continue to look this way. I just don't see it stopping.
yeah, I think I did have Diggs the lowest on this list. I had him at 11. It's honestly, it's the age thing. And we're talking Dynasty, but it's Josh Allen. It's a crazy good offense. And Stephon Diggs is a very talented football player. And when you put all that together, it's fantasy goodness. So I'm with you there. You just ride him. I mean, he's not a guy you're taking off your team at all.
Well, I had him at number 6 when we did our composite rankings. The only reason is because he is him. He is the guy that has been the best wide receiver this season. And yes, he has all those other options for Josh Allen to throw to. But at the end of the day, when when it comes to the crunch time of a game, Stephon Diggs is the guy that is always getting targeted. And when you have a high-powered offense such as the Buffalo Bills, you're going to need a wide receiver that's going to benefit from that. So Stephon Diggs is kind of having that Cooper Kupp-esque season that happened last year. And, I think if you have that ability, you belong up high on this list. I will say this. I saw a stat on, I think it was First Things First. I don't know, one of those stupid Fox shows. They said that Josh Allen, they crunched the statistics. Josh Allen for the last 6 weeks has been as good as benched Davis Mills. That is a real stat. We're talking accuracy, touchdowns, interceptions, all of like QBR, all the stats. They match Davis Mills.
Yeah, he hasn't actually been playing that well. It's just it's all going to Stephon Diggs. Like the Bills are in quite a slump right now, and they're not looking. They could have lost on Thanksgiving Day. They could have lost the week before. They're looking a little rough right now. But I don't think the thing about Stephon Diggs is he's the only guy. I think I would have him maybe possibly off this list because of his age, or at least a lot lower than I had him at 8. If Gabe Davis was anything that everyone talked us into this offseason. Everyone was like, Gabe Davis, big year coming.
I know I was. What sucks is when you see Gabe Davis have a good game, you're just like, why can you not be this guy every single week? I don't understand it. But
Well, it's because he's a
just
big
not.
play
He's just
receiver.
not.
It's Deshaun Jackson again. I mean,
Well, but
a bigger
he does
Deshaun
not.
Jackson.
He shouldn't be like he doesn't have to do that. Like I don't know why that is the only thing that he is capable of doing. It's so weird to watch. It's literally what's happening with Christian Watson right now. Like he busts these big plays out, but it's like should Christian Watson only be that? I don't think so. But
he's number 5 on this list.
used.
No, Christian Watson is not on this
wait.
list, and I will quit the podcast if he is. He is not.
Can't wait to get the.
We'll get into that in the game previews.
I would rather have Christian Watson than Ramondre Stevenson right now.
You're wrong.
Let that one go, Joe. Number 8 on this list is the Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'll take it because look, and I just I'm going to keep boasting about it. Everybody who thought that Amon-Ra St. Brown was not going to be good this season because of DJ Chark are like, just think how dumb you are now looking back. Like Amon-Ra is that guy.
Look in the mirror and laugh at yourself.
Exactly. Just look in the mirror. Yeah. Just think, what could I do better in life? And then think about your Amon-Ra St. Brown tape from earlier in the preseason. But Amon-Ra St. Brown has answered literally every question that we've had about him. And here's the thing. Here's spoiler alert for everyone out there that's like, well, they get Jameson Williams back this week. When he gets there, he's going to take a big hit. Amon-Ra, the workloads are not even remotely the same. Like that, Jameson Williams is a downfield threat or the crossing Tyreek Hill situation in the middle of the field. That's not where Amon-Ra St. Brown lives. He does the corner routes. He does the middle. He works in the middle of the field. He's a slot receiver, and that is what Jared Goff loves. He loves slot receivers. So
also, I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't know if you noticed that last game, Thanksgiving against Buffalo. But he did that because DJ Chark came back. Nobody was scared of Josh Reynolds and Craig Stevenson and Reynolds. Nobody's worried about those guys. You know who they're worried about? Actual stars, which DJ Chark, don't hate on DJ Chark. He's actually pretty decent running back or wide receiver. But Amon-Ra St. Brown did so well because there's other people out there. And when Jameson Williams gets out there, and for one, when they get a quarterback like that, actually, don't get me wrong, Goff's actually played very serviceable this year. But when they get an actual quarterback to develop with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams, there's going to be a A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith thing. Maybe Amon-Ra has a 7-point game. You know he's going to do next week? 30 points. Like, it's going to be consistent.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think I had Amon-Ra the highest. I have him at 4 on there because he's just a target sponge there. And we saw the one reason that gave me trepidation with Amon-Ra this year was Hockenson was returning and the Jameson Williams Swift kind of runs those middle catches and stuff. But then we took a huge component by them shipping Hockenson off of there. So Amon-Ra is your middle of the field guy with Swift getting in there occasionally. But this offense is absolutely humming. They're going to continue to hum, like you guys said. And, Amon-Ra is that guy. He passes the eye test in every possible category. He catches it long. He catches it short. He's a good player. And I love him. I absolutely love him. I love him.
Add a freaking Kirk Cousins to this team, and this is the best offense in the NFL. They don't need an elite quarterback. They need someone who can manage, say, just DeAndre Swift's healthy, say Jamal Williams is healthy, Amon-Ra, Jameson, and Chark out there. Sure, they're missing a tight end. What does that matter?
Dude, Gardner Minshew just seems like a Detroit guy.
Dude.
This is Gardner Minshew.
We're going to
keep talking about He just seems like a Dan Campbell Detroit guy.
I think Minshew's contract is up next year, and it's going to be very interesting because there's a lot of bad quarterbacks out there right now.
I would love to see Blanco in silver and blue to be, for
Blanco would be good old
Mickey. We're talking hopes and dreams.
Mickey White out there.
Yes, that's true. But before we move off this, I just guys, we don't have to not you two, but the rest of the world, we just don't have to overthink things. Amon-Ra was insanely talented last season in the role that he was given. We all understand that it was because of this and that and injuries and blah, blah, blah that got him in there. And then he showed what he could do. They're not going to ever pull a player like that back unless you're Travis Fulgham. But other than that, you're not going to pull a player like that back and never use them again. They're going to they earn their opportunities. They earn their snaps. They earn their targets. Like an OC sees something like that. They're not going to be like, well, for my job's sake, I'm going to put him to the side. No, they're going to thrive and use that person. Let's not overthink this, guys. Let's not overthink it.
Yeah, I mean, he had 90 catches last year in essentially a part-time role, so he's an absolute PPR diamond. This year he's already got 65, 11 yards a catch.
Yes.
Honestly, the one thing he's missing right now is the touchdowns, and if those start pouring in, which they easily could.
Well, if Jamal Williams didn't exist, he probably would have.
Jamal
probably
Williams
have
with
a lot
his
more.
13 touchdowns.
Exactly.
Fuck
All
Jamal
right.
Williams.
On to number 7, and that is this little known wide receiver named Tyreek Hill. Joe, talk about who this guy is.
One of the best to ever do it. Yeah, I was really nervous on Tyreek Hill when he left KC. I was a firm believer that Mahomes had the arm to make him useful, but he went over to Miami and he is doing the exact same thing on an even higher level than he was doing in Kansas City. The man is he's uncoverable. He's always open. He's putting up insane yardage. He's still on pace for over 2,000 yards this year.
Yeah, probably at least close to.
Yeah. I think last week he had kind of a down game, but Tyreek Hill is absolutely everything you want in a dynasty wide receiver. Yeah, he's 28 years old, but he is an absolute speed demon and he's faster than anyone else in the league. Even if he slows down a little bit, he's still going to be faster than 98% of the people out there. So I have no worries about Tyreek Hill's age and in that offense. It's awesome. I love Tyreek Hill.
Also, he's played at least a majority of a full season, like 3/4 of every season since he's started. I think mine was kind of the opposite of Joe's take. It wasn't that I was worried that Mahomes made him a thing. We all know what Tyreek Hill is. It was more of I didn't think Tua could get the ball to him, which is actually
that was
true.
A big part of it.
But Tyreek Hill keeps coming back and he's that fast where he can stop on a dime. The defender can't do anything about it, and he can go back and get the ball before it's an interception. He's saved at least 3 Tua interceptions and will probably save 3 more at least by the end of the season. But honestly, they're using him in a creative way. As much as I hate Mike McDaniel or whatever the heck his name is, I absolutely hate the guy, but he's using Tyreek Hill perfectly.
Why do you hate Mike McDaniel?
Dude, have you seen his face? Have you seen his face?
Lord.
He looks creepy, dude. I don't know what a pedo looks like, but it's him. Anyway,
well, there we go.
Put me on another list, man. It's fine.
All
right. Content. Well, let me just talk about Tyreek Hill, though. They're using him in such a way that it's screen passes, it's dump off, it's slot work, it's deep slants, it's deep balls, it's everything. And they're using Tyreek Hill in a better way than KC was even using him.
Yeah, and here's the thing, guys, and we say this every draft season. There is no Tyreek Hill. This is a unicorn. We're watching a unicorn play football. There's not going to be a receiver like him probably ever again. It's probably not going to happen. There's going to be players like him. There's going to be different players that are seed at different things. They're not going to be Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill, and he is going to thrive no matter who the quarterback is. I don't think we did not think it was going to be quite like this. I thought it would take a while to get, it going a little bit, but no. Mike McDaniel has hit the ground running. He went out and told them, hey, trade a first-round pick, get me Tyreek Hill. And they were like, all right, here's 3 first-round picks. Tyreek Hill, come onto our team. They signed him to a deal. You've got literally what this is going to be prime. Like, it's kind of weird to say. This is prime Tyreek Hill for the next, 4 or 5 years. That is the craziest part. He has already lived an entire life at Kansas City where he was a stud year in and year out. But this is not, we haven't seen this before. Travis Kelce kind of was stealing a little bit of the shine there. This is the prime Tyreek Hill where he is the number one focus of the offense, and he is going to get every bit of work in that offense.
The craziest thing is he's averaging in his career 9 touchdowns a year, and so far he's at 4, and that's more than halfway through the year. He's probably going to end up with 5 or 6. It's not even a big deal. He doesn't need them. He's getting the catches. He's getting the yards.
Exactly.
Already has 87 receptions on the year. I mean, it's
stupid.
I love
it's
PPR.
Bonkers.
I love PPR.
It's literally this is what I think we all think, when we think we could do this for a living, being an offensive coordinator, it's literally I have Tyreek Hill. Let me just use him. Let me just throw him the ball 85 times, 90, 100 times and see what happens. That's literally what you should be doing. Whatever. I think a lot of OCs confuse how they use their players on their team. There's no confusing how to use Tyreek Hill. All right.
If you guys were wondering, we're all very, very excited about Tyreek Hill.
Yes, excited about the Dolphins in general. This offense is insane. It's literally what we want Shanahan's offense to be, but he does not have these players.
We definitely weren't the last undefeated team, though. So
that is a factual statement. All right. On to number 6, which is the Cincinnati Bengal named T. Higgins. Well, Cincinnati Bengal for now, I would suspect.
For now. I think he's going to stay. I don't think there's any way they can get rid of him.
I don't think so either. I'll talk about T. Higgins. I think that T. Higgins is leaving this team. I don't think they're going to, unless he gets injured and they have to, they're going to keep him because, he's not going to get a better deal somewhere else. I think he's going to be the next wide receiver that wants to be traded in the offseason, and he is going to go to a team where he could be the number one, which is why I have him, on my dynasty list, because I don't even think we've seen the best of T. Higgins. I think we've only seen the floor of T. Higgins. I think the ceiling is still higher.
Billy, when you first said that, dude, I thought you were so high. I was like, there's no way he's walking. There's no way he's playing somewhere else. But you have me completely sold on the idea. And if he goes to the right situation, sky's the limit. Sky's the absolute limit.
I'm going to go ahead and fireball bet you on at the end of this day right here that T. Higgins stays in Cincinnati for the next 2 years.
Okay, I'll take
long-term fireball bet.
Long-term.
It won't even be long term because they got to sign him. They either sign him to a massive contract, which they also have to sign Chase and Burrow, but they have to sign him a massive contract, and he has to stay, unless they cut. I don't know. Well, that's going to get confusing in the offseason. But yeah, I'll take that bet. There's no way they pay him and pay everyone else. There's no way.
I just feel like they have to. T. Higgins is like the glue that keeps the Bengals together. Jamar Chase.
I'm not draft another one. He's a second round pick.
I understand that, but T. Higgins is different. Like you said, he's a wide receiver 1 on any other team right now. He's behind Jamar Chase. The only reason Jamar Chase is a wide receiver 1 over him is because of his speed. T. Higgins has every other tangible that you could even have, and he does everything well. I mean, the only thing you can really say about him is he doesn't get the ball enough. I mean, he's only getting 7-8 targets a game. You see what happens when he gets 13. He gets 148 yards. I mean, you don't give the man the ball, he can't get yards. I mean,
so do you think that T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are going to have equal contracts?
No, absolutely not. No. Jamar Chase gets a bigger one
because of his. T. Higgins stay then? That makes no sense.
Because T. Higgins is going to have to be signed first.
Yeah,
but they're not going to blow their whole load on T. Higgins. They got to
pay Burrow and Chase. They're not going to pay Higgins, what he is worth.
I just think it would literally be the downfall of this team if they let T. Higgins walk.
Well, you're already seeing it with Jesse Bates, though. They're already knowing that they have to pay these dudes, and they're locking up their bank account right now, and you're going to start seeing these players. Jesse Bates, T. Higgins might be next, whoever else they need to pay on that team, especially after they handed out those big contracts to Hendrickson and Hubbard. I mean,
which has been good.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
I don't want to take away from the T. Higgins discussion. T.
Higgins is an alpha, man.
Wide receiver. He is a wide receiver 1 on almost every other team. There's probably like 6 or 7 other teams where he wouldn't be. And we just think that whether he stays in this offense in the role that he's in now, which is kind of a muted role, but still a top 12 dynasty wide receiver, I just think there is a ceiling that he has not hit yet that he will get to when he gets to his new team personally.
He's the rare wide receiver who's better in standard than PPR.
It's very rare that happens. Yeah. And yeah,
he's going to Houston. Book it right now.
Wow. That would be interesting. All right, let's move on to number 5, and that is Jalen Waddle. Josh,
I don't Waddle. No, you guys talk about Waddle. I don't want to talk about Waddle. I like Waddle enough. My thing about Waddle is he's going to be overshadowed by Tyreek Hill is the problem. And that's why I didn't have him as high as you guys did. I do think he's a great wide receiver. I had him at 6. Actually, I guess, Billy, you had him lower than me. Joe had him at 3, so it bumped him up this list a little bit. To me, Jalen Waddle's phenomenal if there wasn't Tyreek Hill on the team. Don't get me wrong. I think this talent is phenomenal. We all saw it last year. We're seeing it this year as well.
I was about to say, is it bothering him this year that Tyreek Hill's there?
It's not, but it's not. The year they're having right now is not a normal year. It's not going to continue. They will not be able to do that. They will have to run more.
It's only going to get better. You're right. Which is why Jalen Waddle is my wide receiver 3 in Dynasty.
Which 3, I think, strong, but I do agree that it's only going to get better.
I don't. I'm sorry. That's why I didn't want to talk about Jalen Waddle. Let's
just mute Josh so me and Joe can fawn over Jalen Waddle. So Jalen Waddle, is the catch king. Like here, he is the possession wide receiver on this team. And the thing is when they need a score, whenever the Dolphins need to get the offense going, Jalen Waddle is the guy that they're going to have to put out there and get catches in this offense. Tyreek Hill is a burner. He's got speed. He's got all that. And he can create the big play. But you set up the big play with runs and the short passes. And Jalen Waddle is that guy. He is going to catch 100 balls every year. I will fireball bet Josh on that one if he wants to. he's going to catch 100 balls every season. That's going to keep him relevant in almost every PPR format going forward.
I'll fireball bet you that he doesn't get to 100 catches this year.
How many is he at?
56.
Yeah. They'll get there.
Okay. No, like I said, this was nothing against Jalen Waddle. I think he's a great receiver. I think he's going to be overshadowed by Hill. I think this year is an anomaly for Miami. I do not think that they're the powerhouse that they are at the moment. I actually think Hill is the only reason I have Waddle higher than Hill by like one slot is because Tyreek Hill is older. So don't get me wrong. Love me some Waddle. I just wish Tyreek Hill didn't go here for his sake, but I guess at the same time, they have a chance at like a championship. So that's pretty great for him.
Yeah, I just think this offense is ridiculous. I mean, say what you will about Tua, he's been performing awesome. Gesicki's probably on the out there. Dylan Smythe, whatever his name is, they're working him in the red zone. But I think Jalen Waddle is ultimately going to morph into the red zone guy. He just really shifty, runs the routes really well, and I think you're going to see his touchdown numbers really jump. And yeah, I really like Jalen Waddle.
The thing is, it's kind of wild that Waddle and Hill only have like a combined like 8 touchdowns. Like you'd think that there'd be more. I don't think so. It was 6 for him and 4 for Hill. That's what 10 touchdowns. Sorry, my bad. Do my math a little bit better. Yeah, but I mean, it's just kind of wild because they're the ones who make all the plays, and then I guess just Mostert and now Jeff Wilson are just swooping in to take them all. So and then Smythe and Gesicki.
Yeah. Smythe and Gesicki stealing touchdowns too.
River Craycraft is the ultimate vulture right there.
Suspicious name is catching touchdowns too.
There is one guy. Oh, unless you guys were not done with Waddle.
No, we're done with Waddle.
I just want to talk about this one guy. And Joe, I actually would like you to start this one out because me and Billy have him pretty high. And this is our number 4 combined, all 3 of us. But like for some reason you had him, I believe, at number 10. Talk about AJ Brown. What's your deal? What's your beef, bro?
AJ Brown is at 10, man. He's had a couple great games over his career. He looks really good. The injuries are concerning to me. The fact that there's so many weapons on this offense is very concerning to me. And they don't seem a lot of the time very invested about just giving him the damn ball. I mean, we saw last game, Hurts is running, they're still a rushing offense. And then you add in Goddard, who kind of eats up the middle of the field. Devonta Smith, don't get me started on him. AJ Brown's not even the number 1 option on this team for getting the ball. They're still focused on running it, and they're so efficient.
True.
They're so efficient at running the football with that damn line that until they don't have to throw. And their defense is so damn good. I just don't see AJ Brown having a monster game every week, which is why I don't have him as high on this list as you guys do.
So the thing is, Jalen Hurts is the number 1 option on the thing, and that needs to stop, and it will stop in the future. This year is also an anomaly for the Eagles. We're never going to go 11-1, 10-1 again, probably for the next 10 years. But the thing about this team is they're going to be forced to throw the ball in games, aka last week. Obviously, AJ Brown wasn't the perfect example of that, but they will be forced to throw the ball in high scoring games. Jalen Hurts cannot run for 160 yards each game. Like we saw what happened with Justin Fields. I know it didn't happen on a run play, or it might have, but you cannot do that with a team like this. So AJ Brown in the stretch of this season, aka on Sunday, is going to have some huge plays because they're going against Tennessee, which I don't know if you know that, but that's a revenge game for AJ Brown. But they're going to be throwing the ball a lot more. It's not that they don't trust Jalen Hurts to throw the ball. For some reason, they just trusted him to run the ball, which they need to stop that. And I think they will see the error of their ways in the future. But Sirianni just loves winning at the moment. So
I made this argument a couple weeks ago. AJ Brown was one of my tradeaway guys on here. And it's because I'm not saying that AJ Brown is not awesome. And if you have him on your team, you should be very happy to have AJ Brown on your team. I just don't see him as being as valuable as a lot of these other wide receivers, based on the fact that they have so many different options they can throw it to. I mean, a lot of these teams have to feature their wide receivers. The Eagles, and even if they have to throw it, they've shown that they don't have to feature AJ Brown.
Well, with Goddard out for the next 2 to 3 weeks, they do have to throw it to AJ Brown, and they will. And this will be his
years and years and years.
All right, let's get the emotional Eagles fan out of here. I had him at number 2, which was higher than everyone else. And my argument is, his talent level is like way above and beyond even what he's getting used this year. And this year, I think the Eagles are beta testing their offense. They're seeing what works and what doesn't. And they've happened to go 10-1 while beta testing an offense with AJ Brown in there. I think in the future, they cannot afford not to use AJ Brown more. I think we are seeing the floor of AJ Brown this year because literally they're just seeing what works, what doesn't, how Jalen Hurts needs to operate in the offense. I think the OC is kind of like, scratching plays out that don't work. He's writing in additions and subtractions to plays that do work. And I think going forward in the future, AJ Brown will be a more focal point of this offense. And I think his ability and his just willingness to be used in that way is going to keep him very high. I mean, that's why I have him at number 2. I think this offense is only going to get better. Like, as the defense declines, because defenses cannot stay on top forever. Once the defense declines, the offense is going to have to ramp up. And AJ Brown is going to have to be the focal point of that if they're going to actually be, the Eagles for the next 5 to 6 years. I think AJ Brown's going to be the major point of that.
He's actually statistically going to break all of his records this year with catches, yards, and touchdowns.
And I think this is the floor of AJ Brown. Like, literally, we were seeing
100-yard games and 1 multiple touchdown game this year. I mean,
like I said, floor.
He doesn't even.
AJ Brown is this.
That's fine. I'm not saying that AJ Brown is not a good wide receiver. I still have him in my top 10. I just don't have him at 2.
I think I'm actually kind of shocked the last couple weeks with Goddard out. He hasn't been featured more, but the thing is, they just started running the ball with Jalen Hurts more.
But Josh, here's the thing: the Eagles are getting ready for the playoffs. They got to see what works, what doesn't. It's not necessarily going to lead to fantasy points this season, but once they actually move it into like how it's actually going to be for the next 3 or 4 years with this offense, with Jalen Hurts, then it's going to be just fine. Like they're just working things out on the fly here with everyone in the offense.
I was going to say, I don't see a single starter on this offense not being on the team next year. Even right. Sanders. I feel like Sanders gets this one.
If you had to say the next year's offense is even going to be better than this one, you would believe it right now because this is the first year in this offense. Like, once they all get comfortable with each other a little bit more, it's only going to lead to better, more success.
Yeah, and Jalen Hurts is still learning as a thrower as well. I mean, he's been mostly a mobile quarterback and, kind of getting ready for the NFL.
He definitely trusts his arm more this year than he has in the past. Like, last year, he was like, legs first. If I can get a pass, I'll do it. This year, it's I'll read the field. If I see the legs as the better option, I will do it. But if it's the pass, then I'll do the pass. And that's why A.J. Brown has thrived in this offense, which is all we were arguing for last season was freaking get him in wide receiver 1. And they did. All right. We spent way too much time on that. Let's get on to number 3 with Mr. CeeDee Lamb from the Dallas Cowboys.
I'll talk about him because nobody wants to.
I'll talk a lot about CeeDee.
No. CeeDee Lamb is the man. A lot of even Cowboys fans have talked shit about CeeDee Lamb not being the number 1 receiver. They need to get another one, and
he's not a number 1 wide receiver.
It's not the same. It's we're not talking about you right now.
That's fine.
We gave you AJ Brown, man. You can hate on one player from the NFC East at a time. But no,
I'm just saying your old division
is absolutely a number 1 wide receiver. It would be nice if they even had a number 2 receiver because Gallup has not been that guy. And Cedric Wilson is gone, who was that guy last year. So no, CeeDee Lamb has looked phenomenal this year. And with Dak back, especially, he's only going to get better. Dak's getting more and more into full health. They've been actually a running team mostly this year, and he's still wide receiver 7. He's going to have more games like week 10 in Green Bay. And there's nothing wrong with CeeDee Lamb. He's literally gotten better and progressed throughout his career. He's going to smash those numbers again this year. And I think he's just getting better as a player. And this has nothing to do with Billy being an Oklahoma fan. So we'll let Joe go, and then we'll talk Billy and let him just hype up CeeDee Lamb even more than I did.
Sounds good. Go for it, Joe.
I was all in on CeeDee Lamb when he came into the league and everything. I'm not upset if he is on my Dynasty team. I do think they are going to draft another wide receiver. And I do think that they are going to CeeDee Lamb's he's really getting like a support role. He makes a lot of boneheaded plays on the field, and you can tell that he's not running the right routes sometimes, or he, just makes some stuff up as he goes. If you watch the game when CeeDee Lamb's in, it is not great. I mean, he makes up for it just based on his talent what he's able to do sometimes. He should be a lot better than he is. And that's my argument with CeeDee Lamb. I still have him at number
Your
6.
argue
I'm
is
not
he
hating him.
should be better.
He should be better, yes.
That
is my argument.
I like that argument. I do appreciate that argument. I think they need to get him a number 2. That is the actual problem with this offense. They don't have a number 2 wide receiver right now. And when you have to force everything to CeeDee Lamb, you're right. He's still a raw wide receiver, so I don't think we're seeing the full breadth of what he can do. He's very capable of making boneheaded plays from time to time. But I think if you had a second option in the offense and he didn't always have to face whoever the number 1 cornerback or, get the help from the safety over, I think that he will be able to thrive even more in this offense. I mean, I still have I have a number 4, so I'm not as feeling good as the number 3 slot here, but I think that his future is bright, and I think as this team gets better with talent wise, I think that he will be better. Like if they did get Odell in this offense, for example, I know we were talking about that earlier, it would, I think, only help CeeDee Lamb because it would give him a distraction. Like, I'm not going to lie, when the Rams got Odell last year, it only helped Cooper Kupp. Like, it made Cooper Kupp even better because it gave him somebody that they were looking for. I know that Robert Woods was doing his thing and we were, having the funny Bobby Trees moments, but like Odell was an actual threat that, required people to look his way. I think if they did that for this offense, I think we'd see similar results in CeeDee Lamb's, value spiking up even more. And in the future, when they do draft an actual number 2, I'm sorry, I love Michael Gallup to death. He has not been the same wide receiver this year, and he is not the same threat that he was in the years past. When they get an actual number 2 in there, it's going to mean a lot more for CeeDee Lamb.
I personally don't want to hate too much on Michael Gallup. I think he'll come back next year a little bit better than what he has been this year and kind of be the role we thought he would be, the 700, 800-yard receiver. But honestly, I agree with the Odell, because if Odell does join the Cowboys, as much as I hate the whole Odell hype, like we talked about earlier, it would just give them a little bit of something to worry about. And at the moment, the only person downfield they're worried about is CeeDee Lamb. And the fact that he's been able to do that currently is honestly surprising.
Yeah.
So,
all right, let's get on to number 2. Obviously I think everybody on, that's listening to this podcast right now can probably figure out who's number 1, but we still got to talk about who's number 2 right now. And that is Ja'Marr Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals. I'll start out because I think it's pretty obvious. He's 22 years old. He's not even really gotten all the way fully developed yet. So just seeing him fully, come into his own, he's already been, quite the player through his career. We have hated seeing this injury from him this year because I think he was on pace to have a really special year. And just seeing him not in this offense makes the whole Bengals offense. I think Ja'Marr Chase is in for a massive contract from the Bengals. I think as long as he's with Joe Burrow, that connection and that chemistry is only going to lead to, both of their careers flourishing for years to come. And it's just, this is one of the guys you have to be excited about. We're probably not going to get any wide receiver like this in this draft that's coming up here. So honestly, Chase is going to have this number 2 spot, and he's going to have that going forward. It's still kind of concerning that he is viewed as a deep threat when I don't think he has to necessarily always be that. But if that's how he's going to get used, he is the best deep threat in the league if that's how we want to frame it.
Yeah, he's extraordinarily talented. He's an absolute monster, and he has Joe Burrow. That's all I have to say about Ja'Marr Chase.
Yeah, I think we all know what Ja'Marr Chase is at this point. That little small hands or not being able to see the lines on the football situation before his rookie season kind of worried everyone. So anyone who got him because someone skipped up on him, good for you. You are happy right now. You are not trading Ja'Marr Chase. Leave him on your team. I don't care what offer the guy gives you. He is on your roster for years to come. Unless you're in redraft and sure, do what you want.
And here's the thing, Ja'Marr Chase is going to be the guy that, we're talking, we talk about Stephon Diggs and we talk about Adams. We talk about this, you're getting in on one of those guys early right here. We're looking at him. Some players are going to
argument. Sorry, Bill. You can make the argument that he could go number 1, honestly.
Yeah. He easily could go number 1. In college, number 1 and number 2 played on the same team, and number 2 was a hell of a lot better than number 1. So honestly, yes, you can make the same argument now. And the thing is if number 1 just wasn't the best darn wide receiver I've seen in years, then we wouldn't even be talking about him. So let's just get to him. I hate that Jefferson's overshadowing Chase, but it's kind of ironic because Chase was overshadowing Jefferson and LSU. But our number one, beyond a shadow of a doubt, with us three at least, is Justin Jefferson. Joe, kick us off.
I mean, this guy is just so special to watch. He gets it done all the time. If Kirk Cousins was halfway decent at quarterback, we're really seeing a decline from him. He could be having even a better year, but he's making these horrible throws into massive plays. We saw probably one of the best catches that I've ever seen in my life a couple weeks ago. He just does it all. And if you have him on your team, you are just feeling phenomenal. You wake up every morning, the sun shines a little brighter, the birds are a little bit louder. It's just a beautiful thing having Justin Jefferson on your fantasy football team. He is number one without a shadow of a doubt.
If you just look back at like the top 10 picks and you were in the 5th slot and you were like, no, I need a running back, and you didn't draft Jefferson, or 4th slot, whatever you were at. And sure, if you got Eckler, you're probably pretty fine. But if you got some of these other guys, you drafted Najee Harris over Justin Jefferson, you're just looking and you're going, what did I do to myself? Like, I gave this season away because Justin Jefferson, yeah, sure, he's had a couple bad off games. I wouldn't say bad games, I'd say more like off games. His lowest 6 and 4. And then everything else is double digits and 30s and 40s and stuff. Yeah, you're in the championship, or at least the playoffs, with this guy, and he's literally gotten better each season at this point, which is really wild to me. He goes 1,400 for 7 touchdowns his rookie year, 1,610 last year, and sure, maybe he doesn't get more than 10 touchdowns this year, but he's going to get more than 1,600 yards at this point, it looks like. So
he's flying.
And Minnesota's going to be fighting till the end. I mean, they're looking for that number 1 seed, so Jefferson's going to be playing, and you're just going to be excited about this.
So just for this exercise, I went back and looked at who was taken in our Dynasty draft. We have a league that's been going on for about 5 years, or at least we've been involved with it for at least 5 years. And I just wanted to see who was taken ahead of him. Here are names that were taken ahead of Justin Jefferson in our draft, where he went 11th out of 12
Was that the
teams.
McCole Hardman one?
Nope, that was the year before. This was 2020. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire went number 1, which, looking back, woof. Jerry Jeudy, Josh, thank you for taking him number 4 overall.
And then you got CD.
Yeah, and then J.K. Dobbins went after that. I went CD Lamb, which thankfully on this list he's pretty high, so it doesn't look that bad. Joe, sorry you took Cam Akers. Woof. Then
he also flipped Cam Akers.
Justin Jefferson on my team.
Yeah, he also traded Cam Akers like 7 times in between that.
I traded Cam Akers for Justin Jefferson. So.
But like, listen to this. After my CD Lamb pick at number 5, Cam Akers, Keyshawn Vaughn, Jalen Reagor, Henry Ruggs III, and then Justin Jefferson.
Reagor went above Jefferson again.
Yes. So just woof. I mean, look, we all did not see this coming. This guy is literally one. I mean, they were talking about it on the sports. Is he one of the best receivers you've ever seen? Mm-hmm. I can't even argue it. Like, he is. He looks like one of the best receivers I've ever seen. I mean, he's not, wouldn't put him like Hall of Fame all-time guy yet, but like now, this is the guy of our generation that we're going to be talking about in 50 years of like, do you remember when he played? Like, you know, Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, all them, like, we're watching it.
And ironically enough, he's on the Vikings, so he has a chance to break some of Randy Moss's records on the Vikings. And
he already did, didn't he?
I think he
broke his rookie receiving record and I think his second year too. No, I mean, Jefferson going in. If you guys go back to the podcast in like June and August, I was saying I would take Justin Jefferson 1.
You did
in redraft, and I'm killing it everywhere I did it. I think this next year, especially going into redraft season long, you're going to see wide receivers start bumping these running backs off. So be prepared.
Honestly, I was fighting for the no running back. Like, that was my biggest thing I was pounding the drum for. And like, yeah, if you went Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Adams, Diggs, like any of those guys in the first round, you're in a good spot probably. Like, you're doing just fine in your league, most likely, if you ended up with a good, decent running back in the spot that you did take him. But
which there were plenty of them in the late rounds. The Kenneth Walker pick, Joe was also pounding that drum. I mean, I don't need to go back to the running backs. Josh Jacobs, we were all pounding that drum.
Yeah, we were.
Zeke Elliott, that we were like, we love Pollard, but Zeke's still good too. Yeah, so wild. All right, here is our list of our top 12 wide receivers for Dynasty football going forward. 1, Justin Jefferson. 2, Jamar Chase. 3, CD Lamb. 4, A.J. Brown. 5, Jalen Waddle. 6, T. Higgins. 7, Tyreek Hill. 8, Amon-Ra St. Brown. 9, Stephon Diggs. 10, Cooper Kupp. 11, Chris Olave, and 12, Devontae Adams. Before we go, though, guys, there's like 2 or 3 names we probably at least need to mention why they didn't make it onto our list, and I will kick it off with DK Metcalf. I had DK Metcalf 14th on my list. I did not have him make it into the top 12. I've seen a lot of Dynasty rankings where DK Metcalf is in the top 12. But for me, it's the uncertainty of this team. He doesn't always seem to be completely 100% into the games. It's just tough because his talent looks good, but what actually happens on the field, not necessarily always something that matches that.
For me, for DK Metcalf, it was the fact of I probably would have put him on this list at the beginning of the year. I actually was pounding the drum for DK Metcalf in the offseason, which honestly, he's played fine. He's just not a top 12 at the moment. And it's mainly because Tyler Lockett's been way better than we expected. I thought it was really just a rust thing. It was kind of the same concept of Mahomes and Hill kind of deal. That's how I felt about Tyler Lockett. I was like, he probably won't hit. But him and DK Metcalf are just both very consistent middle of the pack wide receivers. So
it's true.
He's had a great year.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with him.
Joe, can you pound the drum for why George Pickens would have been in your top 12 but missed it just slightly? Outside looking in.
He was in my top 12.
I know. We'll talk about why he did not make. Talk about him. He's outside.
Just talk about him.
Talk about.
Yeah. So George Pickens, I've watched pretty much all of his games and everything. He is ridiculous as a wide receiver. The routes that he runs, catches that he makes are absolutely ridiculous. And I think that, if he was on a team right now that had a competent quarterback, he would easily be in this list, I think, for a lot of us, because we would see how special this dude is. But he's extremely special, and I think even if they stick with Pickett, they're only going to grow together. The offense is going to get better. They do need to address the offensive line, but George Pickens is the number 1 on that team already, and he's just ridiculous. So give him some time to grow and mature and everything, and I think we're talking about George Pickens top 5 here in a couple of years.
Yeah, so my thing about Pickens, and I don't think he's quite in the top 12 yet at this point, but actually just something to elaborate on with you. It's not that if he were on a different team, it might be, sure. But I think the thing that's special about him right now is that Pickett and Pickens combo and that connection that they have is real. For some reason, when Pickett throws the ball to Pickens, it's the perfect throw. It's over the defender's hands, perfectly into his, on the sideline. He gets 2 feet in bounds every time. I think honestly, it's the usage thing. I don't even think it's the fact that Pickett's not good. Pickett isn't good, but you know what he does do good? Throw the ball good to Pickens. I don't know if it's because they have similar last names. I don't know if they eat breakfast together or what, but it's something, and it looks phenomenal right now. And I think and Tomlin should be seeing this at this point and being like, hey, maybe we throw him the ball 3 or 4 more times. Just see what happens.
Yeah. One more thing on Pickens, though, that catch.
Okay.
Oh, I just want to talk about that one catch he had. I think it was week 2 where he was completely out of bounds. The ball was out of bounds. He's falling backwards, looks behind him, and somehow catches that ball one-handed. That was the best catch I've absolutely ever seen in my life. Way better than Odell's. Doesn't count. The Jefferson one against the Bills could give it a run, but, I mean, that was the most ridiculously athletic thing I think I've ever seen in my life.
I'm tired of hearing about every time CeeDee Lamb made 4 one-handed catches on Thanksgiving, and everyone's like, oh, and Odell, and maybe it's because Odell's going to the game. Why can't someone just be themselves? It's the same thing as Tyreek Hill. Why do we have to compare someone? And why do we keep putting Odell's above all these other ones? We keep seeing more and more amazing catches, and yet we're still Odell's catch. Tired of it.
No, very stupid. Very stupid. Okay, I only have 2 more that I just wanted to mention quickly. Chris Godwin, he's 26 years old. He probably should be on the cusp of this list, but he just was out of it. He's on a good path. I think Mike Evans is slowing down. I know the Mike Evans truthers out there like Jordan are going to say, well, Mike Evans is blah, blah, blah wide receiver for the last 5 years. I get it. It looks like he's slowing down, though, physically. I can't say anything other than that. He just looks slower.
For a golf terminology, he has the yips, 100%.
Godwin
yips is a good word.
Yeah, Godwin was number 2 in 2019, and he just you can say he regressed. He just hasn't gotten touchdowns, is what it is, and it's just because when Tom Brady got there, he didn't throw the touchdowns to Godwin, and Godwin looks phenomenal. He's getting 90+ targets every season, but
we got to see what happens with quarterback for Godwin. But
That's true too. The last one I wanted to bring up, and this is just there's one specific hater out there that was on the fucking Instagram. Terry McLaurin is not in our top 12, and it's because they're a disaster at the quarterback position. Until they get a stable person in there, I'm sorry, it's not Heineke, it's not Wentz, it's none of them. Whenever they get a stable adult in there to play quarterback for them, then we can maybe start ranking him in the top 12. But until then, we're just going to be like, ooh, that's great that he's making these plays, but he's not better than 18th on any dynasty list right now.
I actually would probably have him in my top 15 if I'm being honest. I am a truther. We're all Terry McLaurin truthers. It's the quarterback, and I get it. That's the reason why he wasn't in the top 12. It wasn't that.
It just sucks that he's already 27.
He's only
and
played
that his whole career has been wasted.
But at the same time, he was drafted late too. It wasn't like he's a young 27. I don't think there's a problem there. It is the fact that they just got to draft a quarterback and they haven't made that move yet.